In this video, we're going to get into some of the customizations that are available by type in the type properties of the objects. So that we can see things a little clearly at this point in the video, I'm going to take the Parallax filter called Clearances All Categories, and I'm going to turn it off in the plan. So that we can see things more clearly, I'm going to do the same thing in the 3D view that we're currently looking at. This is something that you can do in all of your different condoc views, or any views that really you don't want to see the clearances in. Maybe you only want to show them in export views for Navisworks. And so you can see that the toilet stalls are basically coming together to show you the entire bathroom right now. If we take the accessible toilet stall and we look at the type properties, you'll see that there is a large number of customizations available. The yes and no parameters are basically broken into two different types of parameters. There's what we call location parameters, and there's what we call optional parameters. Optionals are things that you may want to turn on or off in a stall. For instance, this stall being a women's room, it has the additional accessory of the sanitary napkin disposal turned on. If we were to uncheck that box, you would see that the one accessory on the wall will disappear. We'll turn it back on since it's supposed to be there. There are other things that you can turn on or off as your projects and/or your firm see fit. Not all offices like to use, or not all clients require the coat hook, and so unchecking that box will get rid of both the modeled coat hook, which is on the back of the door in the closed position, but it will also get rid of the coat hook that is shown in plans swinging on the door that you can actually tag. If you are working somewhere where grab bars are required but vertical grab bars are not, you can uncheck the grab bar vertical, and the vertical grab bars will come off of the stall as well. Similarly, you can get rid of things like the seat cover dispenser if you don't need to show that. And then there are what we call Pilaster Sleeves. Those are best seen in 3D. And essentially, on the overhead brace stall, you'll notice that there are Pilaster sleeves at the bottom. If you wanted to simulate a ceiling hung device, then you could get rid of the overhead braces, turn on the upper Pilaster sleeves, turn off the base Pilaster sleeves, and then it's a simple matter of changing the dimensions to simulate a ceiling hung device. For instance, you'll notice that the Pilaster height at the bottom is currently set to 0, and the top is currently set to 7 feet. If you were to set this to 8'6" and 1 feet, and then you were to hit OK, you'll see that what's going to happen to just this one stall, not all of them, is this one stall is now going to appear as if it is hung from a ceiling, even though no ceiling is modeled. And so in this way, you can use this unhosted toilet stall to basically simulate any of the stall types that you might want to use in your project. As most of ours are overhead braced, I'm going to edit undo and leave them back in the overhead braced position. Now, if we go back into the type properties, the other parameters are called location of accessories. So the default location for all of the restroom accessories is on side 1 of the stall. In the accessible stall, this may make total sense that they'll all stay on this side. When you get into some of the smaller stalls, there is sometimes a need for accessories to be located in a different location. It's not uncommon with some clients that we've seen, for instance, for the seat cover dispenser to be on the back wall. In that case, you simply have to use the location accessory seat cover dispenser parameter, and there is one for rear and there is one for side 2. If we put it on rear, you'll see that the seat cover dispenser has moved to the back wall. Naturally, this is not the location we would like to keep it in since it's conflicting with the stall next door. If you work your way down to dimensions, you will see that there are two entirely different sets of parameters. There are accessory location parameters for the side, and there are accessory rear location parameters. Because the stall can also be used for the fully accessible configuration, you'll see that the seat cover dispenser distance from side is set to a very large value, like 2'9". If we set it back to something like 1'6", you'll see that the seat cover dispenser will now move back into the stall. Also, the accessories for the sanitary napkin disposal, the seat cover dispenser, and the toilet paper dispenser are all specialty equipment face-based families that do have selectors that you can use to swap them out. One of the reasons this is very important is in their default configuration, the accessories are all adjacent to each other on side 1. If you're using a toilet paper dispenser that is larger than the one provided by default, this may not work. This is where the location side 2 parameters come in handy. We can go back into the type properties, and where there is a sanitary napkin disposal, we can say put it on side 2 instead of side 1. You'll see that that accessory will now move to the other side, and now if you use your family type parameter to change the toilet paper dispenser to something much larger, everything still fits. That's basically how the optionals and location and type parameters for the accessories are meant to be used. In addition, there are material finish parameters. By default, some of the toilet stalls are just painted with a render asset that is basically a maroon or a red color, and there are some metal pieces that are configured as chrome. All of the items are parameterized with the material parameters, so if you want to change the materials to something more to your office's standard, you'll notice that the toilet stalls do render. This begets the question of why do we render bathrooms? That's a topic for another conversation. So, getting back into our toilet stalls, you'll also see that as you scroll down into dimensions, there are a large number of dimensions for basically everything in the stall. Some of them are fairly simple. There is the stall depth, there is the door width, there is the stall width on the interior, and then there are things like the panels of the stalls themselves. You'll notice that there are panels and there are pilasters. That's just a vocabulary that we've developed in this library, such that the pilasters are the pieces in between, and the panels are any of the pieces that are in between the pilasters, including the door. So if you want to lower these panels or raise these panels, it's simply a matter of going into the type properties of the stall and saying we would like to change the panel height bottom from 1 foot to be 8 inches, and we would like to change the height from 6 feet to 6 foot 6. If you were to do that to all of the stall types in your project, naturally they would all match, but for now we will just do it with the accessible stall to show that change. Similarly, you can change the height of the overhead braces. You can also change the overhead braces will move based on the height of the pilasters as well. So if the pilaster goes up to 8 feet, you'll see that the overhead braces have moved also. So you can pretty much use these options to configure the stalls in any way imaginable. A particular feature of just the accessible stall is there is an additional option in the instance parameters called is the front a panel. That has to do with this section right here. If you uncheck that box, you will basically get a large pilaster. Depending on the configuration of your room, this may or may not make sense. These toilet partitions are put together with shared nested families. There is a family selector for the door panel, and there is a family selector for the panels and the pilasters themselves. There aren't any optional devices shipped with the library, but this is done so that if you need a custom panel with, say, louvers or decorative molding or a decorative pattern on this door panel, you can simply open this family, do a save as, and create a new style. You'll notice that there aren't a tremendous amount of parameters inside these components. There don't need to be since they're all nested. So if you were to simply hide the dimensions and work in between the reference planes, you could put whatever louvers or decorations on this device that you wanted, and then load in alternate styles. Most of the options on the other stalls are all very similar. Naturally, some of the stalls that are not ambulatory or accessible are taking advantage of the door orientation flip in and out. But if you find the need to flip a door in or out, that parameter is at the top of the options. This covers the majority of the parameter options that are in the type properties of these toilet stalls. And we will, in the next video, go over the scheduling and tagging of all of these components so that you can start to document your restrooms.